Welcome to the deep dive. We've sifted through a stack of sources that really challenge how we think about healing. We've done the reading, and now we're here to give you that shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today, we're diving into something pretty interesting, comparing two holistic approaches that often get lumped together, sound therapy and, well, crystal healing. Yeah, we're diving in because our sources, they lay out a really clear path. We want to figure out what the science can actually measure, what physically works, and then what might just be that undeniable but maybe purely psychological power of belief. That contrast, it's absolutely central to everything we looked at. On one hand, you've got solid empirical evidence, studies showing measurable physiological changes from sound vibration. It physically alters things in your body, brain activity, blood flow. But then on the other side, there's crystal healing. Our sources are pretty direct here. They mostly frame it as, well, pseudoscience, the benefits people feel, likely coming from psychology, ritual, intention. Okay, so let's really unpack this. Our mission today is kind of holding these two things up, hard physics versus, let's say, soft ritual. We need to look at the evidence for each separately and then ask, can they actually work together?
Exactly. It's a comparison of verifiable physics against verifiable psychology. So let's start with the physics part, the sound, because the data there is pretty concrete.
Right, sound first, because the sources definitely point to real observable science, stuff that goes way beyond just, liking a song. What are the actual physiological effects? The things documented that show sound isn't just background noise, but an active intervention.
Intervention is definitely the right word. We're talking specific frequencies, specific vibrations that cause measurable changes inside the body. The reviews we saw point to some significant effects, things like improved blood flow, definite changes in brain activation patterns, and this one I find pretty amazing, positive impacts on bone and even the musculoskeletal system.
Whoa, hang on. Blood flow, relaxation, okay, that makes a certain kind of sense. But bone and tissue changes, that feels like a jump. From just relaxing to, actual medical stuff? How does sound physically do that? At that, structural level.
Yeah, it's about mechanical signaling. It sounds complex, but it's basically physics, not magic. Our sources specifically mention a medical application, acoustic frequencies helping with tissue regrowth and healing. It's because sound waves, especially the lower frequencies, travel through the body as actual mechanical energy, like tiny vibrations. And that mechanical stress, it can stimulate cellular activity. Think fibroblasts, osteoblasts, the cells that repair tissue and build bone. So it really does put sound into the realm of physical therapy, not just making you feel calm.
Okay, that context.
Yeah.
It changes things.
Yeah.
It's not just feeling good, it's potentially activating physical repair through mechanical pressure. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the sources gave specifics, not just general ideas, but actual studies with defined frequencies. Let's talk about 40 hertz first. Why that specific number?
Well, 40 hertz is interesting because it's in the range often linked to gamma brain waves. And those waves are important for cognitive function, processing information. The study our sources highlighted looked at fibromyalgia patients. Chronic pain, often really bad sleep problems.
Right. And what happened when they used that specific 40 hertz sound stimulation?
The results were, quite compelling, actually. They found verifiable improvements. Less pain, better sleep quality for the people in the study. The idea is that this frequency might help sort of regulate or synchronize the brain activity involved in how we perceive pain, and also the restorative parts of sleep, kind of nudging the system back towards a more balanced state, away from that dysregulation you see in chronic pain.
So sound isn't passive. It's like an active tool you can tune to influence specific biological paths.
That's powerful. Yeah.
Okay, now what about a more maybe traditional tool? Tibetan singing bowls. Did that study show hard numbers too?
It did, yeah. That singing bowl study was a good comparison. Researchers tracked physiological stuff like heart rate, blood pressure, and compared to the group sitting in silence, the ones listening to the bowls showed measurable objective drops. Lower blood pressure, lower heart rate, and they reported feeling less negative mood too. The tones and vibrations seemed to actively shift the body, away from that fight or flight sympathetic state and more towards the rest and digest parasympathetic state.
That makes total sense for calming down.
Yeah.
But let's connect the dots back to the brain itself. How does sound hitting the eardrum, causing vibrations, how does that physically sync up with brain activity? What's the actual mechanism for that calmness?
Right. The mechanism is called neural entrainment. Think of it like having a bunch of clocks all ticking slightly out of sync.
Hmm.
If you introduce a strong, steady rhythm like a metronome, or in this case, a sound frequency, eventually the clocks start ticking along with that main rhythm they synchronize.
So our brain waves are like those slightly off clocks.
Kind of, yeah. That's the idea. Sound frequencies can actively nudge brainwave activity, influence those oscillation patterns, and that helps explain why those low-frequency tones, the ones in vibroacoustic therapy, like 30 to 120 hertz, have such calming effects. You're literally using physics to, tune the brain towards a more relaxed, regulated rhythm, which then ripples out and affects your whole nervous system.
That's a perfect bridge.
Yeah.
We've got undeniable empirical effects.
Yeah.
Physics influencing biology. We have studies showing changes in blood flow, maybe even bone regeneration, and definitely brainwave synchronization. So now we have to pivot to the other side of the coin where that kind of physics seems to vanish.
Right. When we switch to crystals, the scientific view changes dramatically.
Hmm.
People claim crystals generate healing energy. But what do the sources say about actually proving that energy transfer? Because, like we just said, sound energy, that's quantifiable, measurable.
Wow.
Yeah, the sources are really clear on this point. Crystal healing, specifically the idea of energy transfer, it's widely considered pseudoscience. And the reason is fundamental. There's just a lack of measurable energy transfer. I mean, sure, some crystals, like quartz, are piezoelectric. They generate a tiny electrical charge if you squeeze them. But there's no credible evidence showing they emit some kind of energy field that can directly change human physiology or brainwaves in the way sound demonstrably does. They just don't have that physical output. But this leads straight to the big question science had to tackle. If there's no physical energy doing the work, why do so many people genuinely feel better using crystals?
Exactly. You can't just ignore that. People report positive experiences.
Absolutely not. And that's where the famous gemstone placebo study comes in. It's quite well known. That research basically found that the healing benefits people felt, they likely come from the placebo effect. Or you could call it the psychological power of ritual, of meaning. The benefit feels real, absolutely. But the mechanism isn't the stone itself, it's the person's own mind and body responding to belief.
Okay, let's dig into that mechanism a bit. What's the difference, biochemically speaking, between a physical frequency hitting your cells, like sound, and the placebo effect working on, say, pain?
Oh, that's a fascinating difference. It's about directionality, really. Sound works bottom up. The physical vibration changes your cells, your nerves, and that sends signals up to the brain. The placebo effect, that's top down. It starts in the brain. When someone believes a crystal ritual will help them, their brain can actually release its own natural pain relievers, endorphins, things like that.
Hmm.
So the expectation itself triggers a real, measurable neurological and biochemical response, often similar to what an actual drug might do. The power comes from the belief system, the focus, the ritual around it.
That's crucial. The experience isn't fake, the feeling is real. It's just that the driver is mental, using the body's own internal pharmacy, basically.
Precisely. And our sources really stress the psycho-spiritual benefits here. Rituals involving crystals, even without any energy transfer from the stone, are very effective tools. They help people focus their mind, clarify and strengthen their intention. The person gives the object meaning, and that focused intention, that drives psychological benefits, which can then lead to physiological ones through those internal pathways.
Okay, so if we boil down the core difference, based on the evidence, sound is like a physical remote control to your nervous system, and crystals are more like a powerful focusing tool for your mind.
That's a great way to put it, yes. Sound acts directly on the body's physics. The vibrations change blood flow, brain rhythms. Crystals act on the mind's focus, belief, leveraging that huge, measurable power of psychological ritual and expectation.
So we've kind of laid out the two separate cases, verifiable physics, verifiable psychology. Now the big question, what does this mean for someone looking for, holistic well-being? Can you actually take the real effects of sound and combine them with the psychological power that comes with crystals? Could that make something more effective?
Well, the sources definitely suggest that not only is synergy possible, it might actually be the most potent way to approach it, because you're leveraging both the hard science and the soft science at the same time. When you combine them, the sound vibration provides that empirical physiological foundation. It physically helps improve circulation, lowers the heart rate, nudges the brain into a relaxed state via entrainment.
So the sound does the physical heavy lifting almost. It calms the body down, whether you believe in it or not, really. It sets the stage.
Exactly, it prepares the body. Then, the crystal work can function as the symbolic anchor. It becomes the focus point for psychological amplification. for enhancing that intention. So while the crystal isn't vibrating your cells, the act of holding it, focusing on its meaning, believing in its purpose, that maximizes the placebo response. And it harnesses the benefits of ritual, which, as we said, are powerful psychological tools in their own right.
So they aren't competing methods. They could actually be symbiotic. Sound makes sure the body is physically relaxed, receptive, maybe by lowering stress hormones, calming the nervous system. And the crystal ritual then makes sure the mind is focused, receptive, and really leaning into its own internal healing capacities through expectation and belief.
That's the beautiful synthesis that came through in the notes, yes. You combine the physical reality sound relaxing the nervous system with the psychological reality rituals strengthening focus and intention. And what you get is a holistic experience. It bridges the hard science with deep symbolic meaning. Together, the sources suggest they build this powerful narrative, one that maximizes both the actual physiological relaxation and the psychological feeling of healing, of agency, of control. It seems like a really elegant way to try and maximize well-being.
It is fascinating that the mind's power, the ritual, the placebo, isn't seen as like anti-science, but as a legitimate amplifier for something physically measurable, like sound waves slowing your heart rate. It kind of validates the whole experience without throwing out the need for actual empirical proof. Hashtag, tag out, tag outro. Wow. Okay, so this deep dive really gave us a clear map into the science of well-being, didn't it? We found a really strong distinction, but also this powerful potential convergence. Sound offers measurable physical change. 40 hertz potentially helping with pain, singing bowls lowering heart rate, blood pressure, while crystals, they offer measurable psychological change. The placebo effect, improved focus, setting intentions.
Exactly. And if we zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, it leaves us with a really provocative thought for you, the listener. Given that we have proven physiological benefits from sound, and we also have the proven psychological power of ritual, which drives real biochemical changes, how might therapeutic practices, ethically and effectively, harness both the hard science of vibration and the deep symbolic meaning of intention to really maximize well-being? Where ultimately is the line between a physical treatment and a powerful psychological ritual, especially when both seem to produce a positive outcome for the person experiencing them?
That is definitely the question to take with you, exploring those boundaries between physics and belief. Thank you for diving deep with us today. We really hope this gives you that shortcut to being well-informed on frequencies, focus, and maybe the combined power of the body and the mind.